Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, it is a great pleasure for me and for my colleagues from the National Library of Romania to host today this event dedicated to Japan and its place in the world. I have the great pleasure to welcome His Excellency Traian Hristea, State Secretary in the Romanian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and His Excellency Takashi Katae, the new ambassador of Japan in Bucharest, who I think it's on his first visit to our library, but I would like to think that there will be other visits too. And I would like to, at the same time, it is a great pleasure to see Mr. Ambassador Radu Șerban, whom I met and appreciated during my years, the years when I led the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And after that, Mr. Șerban represented our country, I should say very well, in the capital of Japan between 2020 and 2016. Ambassador Șerban is known as a man of letters, author of several books dedicated to Japan or to the history of relations between Romania and Japan. Mr. Ambassador Șerban is also the author of several volumes of haiku, that is, poetry in the Japanese style, haiku that Ambassador Șerban sees as a balm for the soul. Last but not least, let me say that Ambassador Șerban is also a man with a great sense of humor. And I remember an interview he gave 10 years ago in a very important newspaper, Financial Times, in which Ambassador Șerban said, "When I came to Japan, I had to choose something to experience their traditions and culture. And since I couldn't choose sumo, I decided to choose haiku." So a very good choice, Ambassador. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as is known, Japan is one of Romania's strategic partners. This says a lot about the importance that Romania gives to relations with this country, which is one of the strongest economy in the world, is a verified and stable democracy, and it is, at the same time, a country that defends world peace. As a historian, I should say that the relations between Romania and Japan were good regardless of the political regime in our country. Even during the communist regime, even if Nicolae Ceausescu rather admired the political system of North Korea, still the relations with Japan were very good, and an agreement on cultural, educational, and scientific cooperation was signed in 1976. The dynamics of the bilateral relation between Romania and Japan increased a lot after 1990. As you can imagine, as our country returned to democracy, and I'm convinced that it will continue in the future. But in the hearts and in the minds of our fellow citizens, Romanians, Japan is not only an economic power, but also a state of mind. I think that you know that Romanians admire and respect the traditions of the Japanese people, from their passion for cherry blossom, sakura, to the tea ceremony, or the fabulous Japanese cuisine. And by the way, the number of Japanese restaurants has spectacularly increased in Romania in the last decade, and this is probably one of the nicest compliment a friendly country can receive. And now I leave the floor to our guests, and I shall begin with our friend, His Excellency Traian Hristea. Mr. State Secretary, you have the floor. You can take the podium. Thank you.
Mr. Minister, Your Excellency, Mr. Ambassador, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am very glad to be here today, having the opportunity to present to you the pivotal role of Japan in the international community at a turning point in history. 2023 has a significance which is apart, it is very special, both for Japan as well as for Romania. Romanian and Japanese bilateral relations. Japan's assumption throughout 2023 of the two internationally high-profile mandates. First, the G7 presidency, and secondly, the non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, created additional platforms to affirm Japan's increased engagement and to promote shared goals and values with like-minded states. Also, in 2023, more exactly on March 7, His Excellency President Klaus Werner Iohannis and His Excellency Prime Minister Fumio Kishida signed in Tokyo the declaration establishing the strategic partnership between Romania and Japan, aiming to shape the future of our cooperation based on long-standing friendly bilateral ties, as well as on common interests grounded on the shared democratic values. In 2018, when Romania and Japan decided to be strategic partners, the world was different from the one we are currently witnessing. The already marked 2 years since the Russian Federation launched a war of aggression against Ukraine, while every day the whole international environment becomes more and more volatile. As frontline states in an increasingly deteriorating geopolitical context, and being motivated by an unprecedented level of mutual trust and the common understanding of the new geopolitical imperatives, Romania and Japan have elevated their bilateral relations to a strategic partnership, today having an enhanced cooperation in various areas while aiming to defend our democratic values. Our strategic partnership is comprehensive and visionary, confirming that Romania and Japan are closer than ever in supporting the rules-based international order. Both our countries have set a new level of ambition, aiming to enhance our bilateral ties in 3 main areas or pillars. The first one, political and security dialogue. The second one is economic and development cooperation. And the third one, it's culture, science, technology, research and development, innovation, and of course, people-to-people contacts. And we already mark significant results in consolidating all those pillars. High-level contacts have been consistently taking place in Bucharest and in Tokyo. Talks between foreign and defense ministers have become regular, tackling issues such as Black Sea security, the continued support for Ukraine and the Republic of Moldova, the free and open Indo-Pacific, the cooperation with the European Union and NATO, or global challenges. And as we celebrated 1 year since our countries became strategic partners, on 7th March this year, we marked this moment by a phone conversation between our 2 foreign ministers. Looking ahead, the effervescence of meaningful dialogue and deepened cooperation in a multitude of fields will keep up as the natural friendship and partnership between Romania and Japan is entering a new phase, adapted to the new geopolitical reality and committed to supporting the values we share and cherish: democracy, human rights, and rule of law. Thus, we have plenty of reasons to be optimistic about the future of our relations in all areas of dialogue. Romania remains fully committed to deepening economic cooperation political coordination with Japan on bilateral, regional, and multilateral topics. As at the heart of Japan's and Romania's foreign policy lies a commitment to peace, stability, and cooperation, I am confident that our countries will continue to seek new opportunities to work closely together to build a more resilient future for our peoples, as well as a more secure and a peaceful world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And now, Your Excellency, Ambassador Takashi Katae, you have the floor.
Your Excellencies, State Secretary Triumph is there, Professor Adrian Cioroianu, Ambassador Radu Șerban, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Before I begin, I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about such an important topic and honored to be here today. I'm so glad that my Romanian friends here show your deep interest in Japan's perspective, and I would like to make special mention of the unprecedented level relations between Japan and Romania at this moment. As State Secretary mentioned, the two countries have been strategic partners and fostered close relations since last year. Paraphrasing the title of the conference, I will start by saying that not only Japan, but the entire international community at a turning point in history. International situation becomes a complex where confrontation, competition, and cooperation are intricately intertwined. Above all, Russian invasion of Ukraine marked the end of the post-war era with the greatest legacy of free and open international order based on the rule of law. The Russian invasion of Ukraine is an outrageous act shaking the very foundation of international order. Japan will continue to work closely with the international community, including like-minded countries and strategic partners like Romania, and to promote tough sanctions against Russia. Japan has provided various support to Ukraine, contributing $7.6 billion in total aid, with the recent additional $1 billion. Japan also held the Japan-Ukraine Conference for Promotion of Economic Growth and Reconstruction on February 19th, with the presence of the Ukrainian Prime Minister Shmyhal, and a total of 56 signed cooperation documents were unveiled. Japan will also continue its assistance for vulnerable Moldova and its European path. As you know, Japan has consistently followed the path of the peace-loving nation since the end of World War II. The world trust in Japan that has been fostered through these efforts is the cornerstone of Japanese diplomacy today. Now, let me touch on our diplomatic focuses. At first, Japan is strengthening cooperation with allies and like-minded countries for free and open international order, and re-emphasizing free and open Indo-Pacific by announcing a new plan for FOIP last year. At the same time, we promote the expansion of a rule-based, free and fair economic order. The second focus of diplomatic effort is dealing with security challenges. Japan is facing the most severe and complex post-war security challenges. That is why a new national security strategy was formulated in December 2022. The essence of the strategy is to conduct a vigorous diplomacy backed by a drastic strengthening of defense capabilities. One of the key measures is Japan's enhanced security cooperation with the EU, NATO, and European countries, based on the recognition that the security of Europe and the Atlantic is inseparable from that of the Indo-Pacific. Third focus is managing relations with neighboring countries. We need frank engagement and direct dialogue with China on our concerns. At the same time, we are ready to cooperate with China in areas of common interest. Both Japan and China have great responsibility for the peace and prosperity of the region and the international community. It is essential for both Japan and China to make an effort to build constructive and stable Japan-China relations. Nonetheless, China's current external stance and military activities are unprecedented and represent its greatest challenge. In particular, Russia and China are strengthening their strategic partnership and challenging the international order. Another issue of concern is North Korea. North Korea's repeated launches of ballistic missiles pose serious threat and challenge not only to Japan, but also to the international community. North Korea must dismantle all weapons of mass destruction and ballistic missiles of all ranges in a complete, verifiable, and irreversible manner, in accordance with relevant UN Security Council resolutions. It is crucial for the international community to unite and ensure the full implementation of these resolutions. At the same time, Japan has been seeking to normalize its relation with North Korea through comprehensively resolving the outstanding issues of concern, such as abductions, together with above-mentioned issues. Finally, Japan is committed to taking the lead in addressing common challenges facing humanity, ensuring the international order that Japan upholds and earning the trust of people around the world. We are talking about climate change, global health, global food security, terrorism, violent extremism, transnational organized crime, sustainable development goals, nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation, and human rights. In closing, I would like to extend sincere gratitude once again for this opportunity to discuss the dynamic and critical role Japan plays on the global stage. Today, I have explored Japan's commitment to a free and open international order. Now we recognize that security situation in Europe and that in Indo-Pacific are inseparable. We, Japan and Romania, as strategic partners, should stand together with our partners and remain committed to enhancing our global leadership role and contributing to a safer, more prosperous world for all. Thank you for attention. Vám lidsmesk.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency Takashi Katae. And now it's our guest of honor, Ambassador Radu Șerban, will present his conference. Please.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, when Professor Cioroianu proposed me to speak about Japan at the National Library, I was thinking about such a title, very provocative, Japan, a New Miracle. Because I remember the time when I studied in Bucharest in the 70s, last century, and everybody was speaking about the Japanese miracle. It was an economic miracle. But then I realized that I have not enough, substance to speak about such a new Japanese miracle. So let us speak about Japan in the international community at a turning point in history. And it is really, as His Excellency mentioned, it is a turning point in history, as it was maybe after the Cold War, when the professor and analyst Francis Fukuyama published his book, The End of History and the Last Man. It was really a turning point in the history, but I mentioned this name and I refer to a book being here in this beautiful building of the National Library with the impressive atrium at the entrance and a very competent manager. So let us speak about books also. So this book written by Francis Fukuyama, I know quite well. But for an ambassador in Tokyo, it is important another fact also. You have the opportunity to meet and to listen different personalities in Tokyo, and I had really this opportunity to listen Francis Fukuyama. And he told us about the difference between two speakers, himself being a Japanese American. He said, look, an American starts his lecture with a joke, while a Japanese starts his lecture with an excuse. So excuse me for not starting with a joke. Now seriously, there are such analysts which are speaking about a bipolar world, a future bipolar world dominated by two powers, United States and China. And my question was, what role will play Japan in such a bipolar world? And I found an interesting answer from Nikkei online, a journalist, Rintaro Nishimura, who said, and I quote, "The balance Japan has struck between US and China cannot hold." And I will try to explain more about this because really Japan and the United States are like-minded countries while China belongs to another category of countries. Now, to foreshadow the role of Japan in the world, let me come back to the traditional, to the old Japanese miracle and tell you a few words about this, because it was in the 70s or immediately after the Second World War when Japan started to develop economically very quickly, so it became the second largest economy in the world in such a way that it was challenging even the leader. So that means that Japan was very important, but suddenly, after the Cold War, Japan started to decline, or at least people were speaking about 3 lost decades in the Japanese economy. Japan, after the Second World War, was reborn from its own ashes like the phoenix bird. And they have very interesting in their traditional history, let's say, this phoenix bird in the Japanese style, and Japanese professor from Ase for sure knows about Ho'o, and this is the Japanese phoenix bird, which symbolizes, among others, the peace. But as I mentioned, after the Cold War ended, the Japanese economy started to decline or at least to stagnate in such a way that the Japanese miracle stopped.